My name is Emily, and I never believed in the supernatural. That was until the doll came into our lives. It all began on a gloomy Friday afternoon. My daughter, Lily, had been pestering me for weeks to get her a new doll. Being a single mother working 2 jobs to make ends meet, I couldn't afford the extravagant dolls she saw on TV. So when I stumbled upon a Craigslist post advertising a doll at a ridiculously low price, I thought it was my lucky break. The doll was described as vintage and lightly used. The picture showed a doll with porcelain skin, curly golden hair, and piercing blue eyes. It was, admittedly, a bit creepy, but Lily's insistence was relentless, and I decided to take the chance. I contacted the seller, who agreed to meet me at a rundown old house on the outskirts of town. As I approached the house, a feeling of unease washed over me. The paint on the house was peeling, and the windows were cracked. It seemed like a place that had seen better days. I knocked on the door, and a strange woman in her 50s with wild, unkempt hair answered. She handed me the doll with a crooked smile, and her eyes seemed to flicker with an unsettling intensity. "Here you go, dearie. Take good care of her," she said, her voice low and haunting. I paid her, thanked her, and hurried back to the car, eager to put some distance between us and that eerie house. Lily was thrilled when she saw the doll, and I couldn't help but smile as I watched her play with it. Little did I know that this doll would bring a nightmare into our home. The first sign that something was amiss came that very night. I was awoken by Lily's screams echoing through the dark house. Rushing to her room, I found her huddled in the corner, her eyes wide with terror. She pointed at the doll, which was sitting on her bed, its lifeless eyes staring into space. "Mama," she moved by herself. "I swear," Lily cried, tears streaming down her face. I tried to calm her, assuring her that it was just a bad dream. But as I picked up the doll, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. Its porcelain face seemed different, almost malevolent. Over the next few days, strange occurrences became a daily ordeal. The doll would change positions when we left the room, and I found it in places we hadn't left it. Sometimes, it would whisper words to Lily in the dead of night, words that filled her dreams with darkness and dread. I decided to investigate the history of the doll. I discovered that it had once belonged to a little girl who had died under mysterious circumstances. Her death had been shrouded in rumors of dark rituals and demonic entities. I couldn't believe it, but the evidence was mounting that something sinister had latched onto that doll. One night, as I was tucking Lily into bed, she whispered to me, her voice trembling with fear. The doll told me its name, Mama. "It's Malice." My blood ran cold. Malice? The name alone sent shivers down my spine. I knew then that we were dealing with something beyond the realm of reason. Desperation led me to seek help from a local paranormal expert, Dr. Samuel Hartman. He arrived with an arsenal of equipment and a determined expression on his face. As he examined the doll, he muttered incantations and performed rituals to reveal the entity's true nature. What he discovered sent a chill down my spine. Malice was not just any malevolent spirit. It was a demonic entity that had latched onto the doll with a thirst for torment. Dr. Hartman explained that the doll's former owner had dabbled in dark rituals, and in her death, her malevolent spirit had found a vessel in the doll. Together, we performed a ritual to bind the entity to the doll once more, to lock it away from our world. It was a harrowing experience, one filled with the agonized wails of the entity as it fought to retain its hold on the doll. Finally, it was done. The doll lay still, its porcelain features serene once more. Dr. Hartman assured me that it would no longer pose a threat to Lily or our home. As the days passed, the doll remained dormant, and Lily slowly began to return to her cheerful self. But I couldn't shake the feeling that we had narrowly escaped a nightmare. The doll now sat in a box in the attic, a constant reminder of the supernatural horrors we had faced. I had learned a hard lesson about the dangers of the unknown, the malevolent forces that could lurk behind a seemingly innocent Craigslist purchase. And as for Lily, she had her innocence restored, but the memory of Malice would forever haunt her dreams, a reminder that the line between the living and the supernatural was thinner than we could ever imagine. My name is David, and I've always had a fascination with the supernatural. Along with my three closest friends, Sarah, Mark, and Rachel, we formed our own paranormal investigation team based in the heart of Philadelphia. We were relentless in our search for the unknown, exploring haunted houses, abandoned asylums, and ancient cemeteries in the quest for evidence of the supernatural. As Halloween approached, our excitement reached a fever pitch. We had heard rumors of a mysterious Ouija board available for sale on Craigslist. The description was incredibly enticing, promising a connection to the spirit world like no other. It was the perfect addition to our Halloween festivities, and we couldn't resist the temptation. The board was ancient, crafted from weathered wood adorned with intricate carvings and symbols. The seller's description claimed it was a portal to the other side, and that it had a dark history of summoning malevolent spirits. To seasoned ghost hunters like us, that only added to its allure. With the Ouija board in our possession, we couldn't wait for Halloween night. The anticipation was palpable as we gathered in my dimly lit living room. The candles flickered, casting eerie shadows on the walls as we placed our hands on the planchette. "Is there anyone here with us?" Rachel asked, her voice trembling. For a moment, there was nothing but silence. Then, slowly, the planchette began to move, gliding over the letters and numbers, spelling out, "Yes." A wave of excitement and fear washed over us. "What's your name?" Mark inquired. The planchette responded with Samuel. We continued our conversation with Samuel, asking questions about the afterlife and the mysteries of the spirit world. The atmosphere in the room grew heavy as we exchanged stories and laughter with what we believed was a friendly spirit. But as the night wore on, Sarah, always the skeptic of the group, began to grow uneasy. "This doesn't feel right, guys," she warned. "Maybe we should stop." Before we could heed her warning, the planchette moved with sudden force, spelling out a chilling message: "Leave now." Just as fear surged through us, the lights flickered and went out. Panic seized our hearts as we sat in the pitch-black darkness, our breaths ragged and trembling. Moments later, the lights flickered back to life, revealing a scene that would forever haunt our nightmares. Rachel lay motionless on the floor, her eyes wide open, staring into the void. We rushed to her side, but it was too late. She was gone, her life extinguished in an instant. Shock and grief washed over us, and we called the police, who arrived shortly after. Rachel's death remained a mystery, and we were left with nothing but questions. In the days that followed, our lives unraveled. Guilt tore at our souls, and our once close friendship began to disintegrate. Sarah blamed herself for suggesting we stop, while Mark and I couldn't shake the feeling that we had unwittingly unleashed something malevolent. We decided to investigate the Ouija board further, discovering its dark history and the tale of a sinister cult in Philadelphia from the late 1800s. They had used the very same board to summon dark forces, meeting a gruesome end in the process. Haunted by our loss and driven by a need for answers, we returned to the antique shop where we had acquired the board and confronted the shopkeeper. He revealed the cursed history of the board and the tragic fates of those who had dared to tamper with it. Determined to put an end to the malevolent force we had unleashed, we sought the help of a paranormal expert. Together, we conducted a ritual to seal the dark energies within the board once and for all. As we chanted incantations and burned sage, an otherworldly presence filled the room. The board trembled, and for a moment, it seemed as if all hell had broken loose. But as the ritual reached its climax, the board finally grew still, its malevolent energy contained. We buried the Ouija board in a remote location, far from the city, hoping to forever seal away the darkness that had claimed Rachel's life. Our friendship had been shattered, and our lives forever scarred by the events that had unfolded. Years have passed since that fateful Halloween night, and we've gone our separate ways, haunted by the memories of our paranormal adventures. Philadelphia may be a city steeped in history, but it's also a city where the line between the living and the dead can blur, where ancient evils lie waiting to be awakened. We learned the hard way that some mysteries are better left unsolved, some doors better left unopened, and some Ouija boards better left untouched. The horror of that night will forever be etched in our minds, a chilling reminder that the supernatural should never be taken lightly. We had recently moved to a charming old house in Los Angeles, a house filled with character and history. Its previous owner, a friendly old man, had left behind a trove of items that were now ours to explore. Among them was the cursed watch, an ornate antique piece that I found on Craigslist. The watch was magnificent, with an intricate golden chain and a face adorned with delicate engravings. It had an aura of mystery that drew me in, and I couldn't resist the allure of adding it to our collection of curiosities. I thought of it as a showpiece, a conversation starter for guests who came to visit our new home. The trouble began when I brought the watch home. At first, everything seemed fine. We admired it, displayed it prominently in our living room, and admired how it glinted in the sunlight streaming through the windows. As the days passed, a subtle unease settled in. My husband, Peter, complained of strange dreams, ones where he was lost in a maze of endless hallways, each one leading to another. He felt as though he was being watched, and the sense of dread lingered long after he woke. Our children, Lucy and Sam, were affected too. They said they could hear whispers at night, soft and incomprehensible voices that seemed to come from nowhere. I brushed it off as their overactive imaginations, but the truth was, even I had experienced the eerie sensation of being watched when I was near the watch. We decided to keep it in a drawer, hoping that it would put an end to the growing discomfort. But it didn't. Our home began to feel colder, the atmosphere more oppressive. Shadows danced in the corners of our vision, and we'd catch glimpses of a figure out of the corner of our eyes, a silhouette that should not have been there. One evening, as we gathered for dinner, a crash came from the living room. We rushed in to find the watch had fallen to the floor, its chain twisted and broken. I picked it up, examining it for damage. That's when I noticed the time on its face, which was wrong. It read 3:33, but it was well past 7 o'clock in the evening. It was then that I remembered the old owner of the house, the one who had left the watch behind. He had mentioned the cursed watch, how it had plagued his life with unending misfortune. We should have heeded his warning, but it was too late. The supernatural occurrences escalated, becoming more terrifying by the day. The children couldn't sleep, and Peter's dreams had turned into full-blown nightmares. He would wake up drenched in sweat, his face contorted in fear, unable to recall the horrors he had witnessed. I knew what needed to be done. I took the cursed watch and locked it away in a small wooden box, burying it deep within the attic. But it was as if the curse had infected our home. The nightmares persisted, growing darker and more sinister. One night, Peter woke up in a cold sweat, his eyes wide with terror. He mumbled about a menacing figure that had whispered a chilling promise of doom. I held him as he trembled, the words echoing in my mind. The next morning, I made a horrifying discovery. The cursed watch was back in its place on the living room shelf, untouched, unbroken. I knew then that there was no escape from its malevolent influence. As the days passed, we became shadows of our former selves, prisoners in our own home. The cursed watch had turned our lives into a never-ending nightmare, a relentless descent into darkness. We had to leave, but by then, it was too late. The day we left that cursed house, the watch disappeared. We never saw it again, but its sinister influence still lingers in our minds. The events that transpired haunt us to this day, a sad and terrifying reminder of the horrors we encountered after bringing that wretched watch into our lives.